Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is David Politis. I'm the founder and CEO at BetterCloud. And today I'm here to talk to you about SaaSOps. This is an IT practice, an IT movement all around how to discover, manage, and secure your best of breed SaaS applications. So what I'd like to do today is I'm going to take you through these slides. And as I do, I'm going to try to get through them relatively quickly because we have an amazing panel discussion towards the end. So I'm going to go through these slides, share with you what SaaSOps is, the evolution of it, all the main pillars of the practice, and then we'll get to a couple of the guests that I have with me today. So there's no question, right? SaaS has completely changed the way we work. I'd say actually at this time specifically, as we're all dealing with this new normal and most people are working from home and we've completely changed just the day-to-day rhythm of how we work. SaaS is at the center of that. And even before this new normal, it's really changed the way that we work and it's reduced so much of the friction that exists and so much it's driven so much more collaboration in the workplace. And really, it's not just the technology and using SaaS applications, which of course, with the group that's here today joining us, this is, I'm preaching to the choir in this regard. But it's also the fact that it's a best of breed world. There's now applications out there for every industry, every line of business, every department. Everyone has an application that is purpose built for them. And so it's not that homogenous world that we were living in. It's heterogeneous now. It's not a one stack. It's really the best application for every function within the business. And on top of that, employee productivity and experience is core to how workplaces are being built out, how we think about the technologies that we bring to the table. It's no longer just about which is the application that's part of the stack from the vendor that I've used for the last 30 years. It's now about what do my users want to use on a day-to-day basis to really to be productive and to enjoy their work. And when you put all of this together, this SaaS adoption with the best of breed, with all that, this is what we're calling the digital workplace. And again, right at this exact moment in time, this is so core to the success of businesses, is being able to create this digital workplace where the physical doesn't matter. And it's really about driving this digital virtual workspace. And when done well, the business impact is really, it's massive. I talked about it before, but we're doing, you think about, I don't know, 10 years ago, in some organizations, even shorter time ago, and you're sharing around, you're emailing files around, let's say version 1 final, version 2.1 and you're sending these attachments around in emails. And just think about that versus logging into a Google Doc and collaborating at the same time with 10 other people in your organization and outside of your organization on a file. Think about the friction that existed versus what we work in today. Think about the fact that you can have a Slack environment where you're bringing in contractors that are working with your organization to work on specific projects, on specific channels, that all of that is just available. It really, truly is amazing the impact that SaaS can have on a business and the way that people are doing work, again, being proven right now. And at the center of all of this, is IT. It's you. It's the people listening to this. IT sits at the center of all this. You are the most important piece. And again, you've seen this in the last 2 to 3 weeks. IT is being leaned on to create these digital workplaces where people can be productive and can actually collaborate with each other no matter where they're sitting. And it really sits on IT's shoulders. And the challenge is that, as amazing as all this is for your employees and the end users, for IT to make that business impact really happen, it's really difficult. It's the workloads that, just if you think about how much work is required to do something, just like just for example, you want to offboard a user from an application. And when I talk to our customers and I talk to our community, the average number of clicks, just clicks that it takes, is 120 clicks to offboard an employee, 120 clicks across 10 different consoles. That there, at some point, as more applications are in use, and as IT is not really growing exponentially to match that IT headcount, you really have so much work that has to be done, manual work across all these different applications. And then you think about your employees, and the fact that your employees now, in a good way, have control over these applications that you're using. But the challenge that you have is that the employees have control of the settings and the entitlements. And it's such a new way of working. A lot of times employees are doing things where it's not even malicious. It's just that you don't know what that button means when it says, hey, do you want to share this file with the whole world? When you click this button, and people are like, oh, the whole world probably means my company, but it actually means public on the internet. The number of, just the amount of things that the challenges that you have to overcome, it's crazy. I mean, in most organizations still to this day, and not all, but in most, IT is still looked at as a cost center versus an area that can really empower and enable the business. My belief is that's changing, and I think that what's happening right now is going to change that faster. It's basically going to be an inflection point of the realization of the importance of IT's role in empowering and enabling the business. But again, the challenges are countless. But the people here really, and especially my panelists today who are joining me, but also the people who are joining today, and if you're an Okta customer, if you're thinking about going to Okta, you are really the trailblazers. A lot of this new world, there's no blueprint. There's no best practices. I mean, there's no certification for running one of these SaaS, forward digital workplaces. It doesn't exist today. And so the people who have been able to do that, you've really been the trailblazers over the last 5-10 years. And you've really you've made this possible. And all of what I just talked about, all of this is SaaSOps. When I talk about the community and the movement and the practice, it's all of what I just talked about. It's the IT people who've been able to create these workplaces, empower their users, really have a massive impact on their business. And if you think about what SaaSOps is, think about DevOps, right? DevOps, AWS was launched in 2006. The first time the term DevOps was used was 2009. And now think about 10 years, fast forward 10 years, and what DevOps is today. So what DevOps has become from a back-end technology perspective, that's what SaaSOps is from a front-end technology, from the technology that workers are using to do their job every day. SaaSOps is the same thing. It's a newer movement. It's a newer movement, but also SaaS kind of inflection. We only really hit adoption of SaaS, that inflection point, really 2016, 17. So 2-3 years later, now this movement is really picking up steam. And when we talk about SaaSOps, I'm going to take you through this. Just understanding SaaS adoption is really important to understand why SaaSOps is necessary. So SaaS adoption, right? You start usually with a couple of users, a couple of applications, a little bit of data, and then it just grows exponentially. And we see this all the time. Okay, I'm going to start with, Slack in my engineering department, but then the marketing team wants to join that. And then the executive team wants to join to see what's happening. And then it just takes off exponentially. And then you say, well, we're using Slack, we might as well bring in Dropbox. And now we're using Dropbox, we might as well bring in Zoom. And then something like this happens. It has happened in the last couple of weeks. And now you're forced, in many cases, to start adopting these applications. And so now the amount of data, the users, the applications, it all goes through the roof. And in theory, you want to believe, I want to believe that the more SaaS you adopt, the more of your organization that's using SaaS, it should, like the nirvana is the top right here. The more of that, and it should be it should drive that business impact, and everything should get better the more SaaS you use. In reality, though, it looks a lot more like this, which is you start that curve, you start adopting SaaS, things are going really, really positively, and then these things start to occur because it's a completely different paradigm that we're living in. And so these things start to occur along the way where, for example, a script breaks. And maybe that script was the one that you wrote to automate those 100, however many steps to offboard an employee, and that script broke. And the reason it broke is because one of the applications, one of the SaaS vendors deprecated one of their APIs, and the person who wrote your script doesn't work at the company anymore, and there was no audit logs and there was no alerting, and it breaks and no one gets offboarded from the company for 2 weeks. Maybe you had to delegate out a lot of work to other people on the IT team, and you've given everyone super admin access to all the applications. And so now, for example, you have 10 super admins in one of your applications, and one of those super admins one time comes in and by mistake, makes a setting change and makes an email distribution list or all email distribution lists actually available to anyone for anyone to join. Maybe there's a story there. This happened last year where there was a story in TechCrunch, and a security firm went out and looked at files in cloud storage systems that had been shared with sensitive data and were shared publicly. Maybe you have a person who leaves the organization in the sales team and they download, call it a Salesforce report with 5,000 leads in it, and they walk out the door and go to your biggest competitor. All the things I just talked about, those are all things that happen to people in our community, in our customer base that we've talked to over the last 12, 18 months. Those are all real stories of people not being offboarded because scripts broke, because the super admins, the average number of super admins in a SaaS application is 11, 12. And sometimes we see people where their entire org are super admins in Salesforce because they don't know how to create the more granular permissions. Those super admins, those are the people who have the keys to the kingdom, the nuclear codes. I mean, these are the people where they can make a change that. We saw someone in a help desk one time who didn't even want super admin rights, but it was what they were given. And they mass deleted half of an organization, 2,000 people by mistake. 2,000 people got mass deleted, thought that they didn't work at the company anymore. We've seen people, users who forward their corporate email to their personal email account because they have access to those settings, and they're doing it for good reason in a lot of cases, or at least they think it's for good reason. But these are the challenges that come with adopting all these best-of-breed SaaS applications. And the more so maybe than that, it's the sprawl of all of this. It's the fact that there's so much sprawl, and you're having to think about that user and the data they have access to in all these different applications. And again, I think for the people who are joining today, I feel like, again, you're living this. You are at the forefront of this. And so the question is, how do you get from that unfortunate reality to the nirvana? And how do you really get the promise of SaaS? How do you see that, and how do you bring that to come to fruition in your organization? And the answer is what we're talking about today, which is SaaSOps. And when you think about SaaSOps, there's really these four main call them practice areas. And the first, really, I believe, is foundational. And this is one of the things I want to talk to my panel about today, is that I believe foundational is just this transformation in terms of a mindset, in terms of a way of working. It completely, if you think about an IT org in a legacy environment versus a SaaS environment, it's completely different. Think about what you have to do from an end user training perspective, just as an example, where applications are changing things every day. New features are getting released proactively into these platforms every day. And your role is less to go and run that upgrade from Exchange 2007 to Exchange 2010. That's not really the job. The job is now to stay on top of the releases that are coming out and make sure that your users are aware of that. So that, just as an example, you just have to, roles and responsibilities and the skill sets that are important have to, at a starting point, those change. And then you have SaaS discovery. Okay, so you've made that change, you've transformed your org, the mindset. And then you have the discovery piece. Okay, which applications are we using? How much are we spending on those applications? Which applications are being used the most by which departments? And so this is one of the main, and really, in my opinion, the first pillar that you put in place as it relates to SaaSOps. Let me get an understanding of the lay of the land. Let me understand which applications. I mean, we're seeing companies where you probably have 150 SaaS applications in use in your organization. And the question is, are they sanctioned? Are they unsanctioned? Who owns them? Do we have 3 instances of the same thing? I mean, the number of companies we work with who have 3 to 4 instances of Dropbox and Slack and Salesforce. I mean, and maybe it's on purpose. Maybe they acquired a company. But either way, you have to have that picture, the view, the map of the entire environment. And then from that point, of those 100 and something applications, there's a subset of those, maybe call it 20%, something like that now you really have to think about the management of those. And when you think about management, it ranges from identity and access, which is really the first order problem as it relates to management. Like, how do I make sure that I'm controlling access and authentication into these applications? That's really core, of course. And again, most of you are Okta's customers, and you know that. But then it's, how do I go the next level deeper? How do I actually start automating user lifecycle? And to me, user lifecycle is onboarding, offboarding. It's all the mid-life cycle changes. How do I know that someone's part of the right Slack channels, the right Dropbox folders, the right email distribution list, how do I make sure that they are as they get moved around my org? Then you start thinking about things like the application configuration. Back to the discussion before, that you can make some small changes to the config that make a really, really big difference in these applications. And so, do you have certain rules? Hey, every time this is created, it should look like this, have these settings, have these entitlements. And so it's all of that, which in one application is not a huge challenge. But when you're using as many applications as the average company is, that's when that challenge starts to become more real. And then you get to the SaaS security piece of this. Now, when I talk about this, I really think about this as it relates to IT. Meaning, from what I'm seeing is, in many cases, you've got the CIO's org and the CISO's org. And in the CISO's org, they're going to be monitoring things. They're going to be making sure to protect from external threats. They're going to be doing all of that. But it really comes down to IT to manage and secure the user, and to manage and secure that insider threat protection, and all of that is really to do a deep dive analysis on a certain application or a certain user and what they're doing. It usually comes back on IT. And so this consists of things like least privilege access. Back to my point before, too many people have too much access to too many SaaS applications. It is not your fault. It's that most of the applications do not have enough granularity in their roles. So they may only have 3 admin roles, and you have to choose one. And usually you don't even know what's within those roles, and you end up assigning whatever the top role is so that the person on the help desk can do what they need to do. It's normal. You have file security, where people are sharing files with their personal Gmail accounts. They're making files public. They're sharing them with external contractors who may no longer work in the organization. There is so much that has to be thought through in this particular area, because again, the access is there. I mean, the beauty of SaaS is the amount of control users have, the amount of collaboration internally, externally. That is the amount of different data types. I mean, think about the fact that you have a GitHub repository that is exposed publicly with your IP of your organization. That's good. There's a lot of good reasons for that to exist as a feature in GitHub, but it can be a challenge. It can be an exposure and a risk. So this is a very multifaceted type of movement practice area with SaaS transformation, SaaS discovery, SaaS management, SaaS security. All of that put together makes up SaaSOps. And let me be clear, this is going to evolve. This is going to evolve just like DevOps has evolved. If you go back 10 years ago, DevOps was looking like this, maybe even a little bit more simple and smaller. You fast forward today to all the different pieces of the DevOps umbrella, and that's what's happening to SaaSOps, and that's what's going to happen in the coming years. So SaaSOps officially really was launched about in September of last year. That was really what I would consider the launch of SaaSOps. And what's been amazing to see since that, so since late September to April, is the movement has picked up so much steam. When this started, there was probably 5 people on LinkedIn with SaaSOps in their title. There are hundreds now. There are hundreds of people with SaaSOps in their title. When this was announced, there was probably no roles available and open. Now there are dozens of open SaaSOps engineering roles open, and across all sorts of organizations. Honestly, it's so exciting to see this, and I think for the people who have been leading this movement, who have been a part of this, and for many of you, even if you haven't heard of the term SaaSOps, I would bet that what I just went through really describes your role. And so whether you change your title, don't change your title, I think at the core, this describes your role and your job and what you're being asked to do in your organizations. And it's exciting because just like DevOps, if you think about let's just be selfish for a minute. If you think about your own careers and you think about what having a practice like this and the importance of it and the movement becoming bigger, it helps you in your careers because you're the ones who were early in this in many cases, and you are the ones with the expertise, and you're the ones that the large, huge, Fortune 100 companies that are now being forced into SaaS adoption, given this new normal, they need help. They need expertise. They need people like you who understand this. And so this is all about the SaaSOps movement. Now, we've been at the forefront of this. I started BetterCloud almost 9 years ago, 8.5 years ago. And we have been preaching this for a long time. It took time to figure out what the actual framework was. It took us, hundreds of hours and conversations with people, from analysts to customers to partners, to put this framework together. And we don't fill, by the way, all the different elements of that framework. This is much bigger than just BetterCloud. But we have been pushing this and have been really championing this for more than 8 years. And it's amazing to see the difference in the last 12 months. It's a completely different world. And so, I've written a couple of books on this over the last, 3-4 years, which are there and available to you. We have an amazing community that we've put together of tens of thousands of IT professionals, SaaSOps professionals. We have a newsletter that's been going out every day, every single day. It's called The Monitor. It's going out every day for 4 years, every single weekday, with curating news from all sorts of IT sources. We have Better IT, which is our Slack community. We have 4,000 IT SaaSOps professionals in Better IT. It's betterit.cloud is the URL for that. It's been amazing. And for us, for our platform, again, my goal here was not really to talk about BetterCloud. I, of course, want to mention it. But our platform, we have over 8.5 years really built this true SaaS ops platform, from discover to manage to secure, and all the use cases that are necessary across that entire life cycle, essentially, of an application. I want to know which applications I'm using. I want to manage a subset of those that are IT sanctioned and that I'm in charge of. And then there's a subset of those that have sensitive data that I really want to secure. And so that whole life cycle is covered with BetterCloud. And I've been very clear about this, and I'm really, humbled and honored, that we are where we are, and it's happened because of our customers, and it's happened because of the experts that we work with on a day in, day out basis, where they've taken us here. We didn't set out to build this in this exact view. We've been listening to our customers and building what they're asking us to build to solve the problems that they're having in their workplace. And so, with that, I am really, really excited to have two people here who I've known for a long time. I respect them as IT professionals, as IT leaders. I've learned a lot from them. They work at amazing companies, both of them. The organizations they work with are amazing, very forward thinking. And so I'm really excited to bring on with me now Travis from Squarespace and Deji from Sunrun. Know these guys for a long time, and I want to get their take on everything that I just talked about. I have not been a practitioner. I've not been in their shoes, in your shoes, and I want to hear from them. And again, I know them well, so I respect their opinion, and I'm excited to get their take. So, Travis and Deji, welcome, and thank you very much for joining today.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
It's great to have you guys. I did a lot of talking, so now I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you guys do the talking. So maybe we could just start. We'll start with you, Travis. Maybe just brief introduction to yourself, to your organization, to Squarespace, and just a little bit about your background in IT, your role today. Just a couple minutes.
Sure, thanks. So again, my name is Travis Whitaker. I'm with Squarespace. We are a company that enables people to create beautiful websites quickly and easily without a large technical background. Currently, I'm the IT engineering manager, so responsible for our SaaSOps, as well as working on larger engineering efforts related to the IT org that helps the team be able to do our job faster with more agility. Personally, I have a background in IT that's about 10 years or so, spanning a couple of different technical roles over time, and lately I've been really focusing on leadership and helping our team as a whole be able to move on to the next level.
Awesome. Deji?
Yes, morning everyone. I'm Deji, solutions architect at Sunrun. Sunrun is the #1 solar company in the US. My current role provides support to the business, and as part of the corporate applications team, which falls under the enterprise applications department, my team is responsible for managing and integrating SaaS applications like Okta, BetterCloud, G Suite, Drive Docs, AWS, Slack, and the likes. Currently we're expanding on our SaaS applications and expanding our cloud first strategy.
Awesome. So we'll start with you, Deji. Just in terms of your time, your career, let's even call it, 5 years may be too short, 10 years. Like what have you seen when we talk about SaaS ops and just in general, the changes, forget SaaS ops for a second, just like the changes to your role, to your job, to IT's job really is what I want to get at is, what do you think that's been over the last 5 years or 10 years? Like what's the biggest change to the role, the responsibilities, the technologies, just as you see it?
So I will say in my role and at Sunrun, when we first started, it was all about G Suite. Although we already had Okta, but it was all about G Suite, and we later expanded into all other SaaS applications. Okta, ServiceNow. So all that, taking ownership of all that and managing that and providing support to the business because most of these applications expand across different teams, from security to finance to HR, Workday, because we did the integration also. We use Workday with Okta for automation. So all that expanded. We all thought, G Suite was this what we would focus on, and it expanded, just like you said. We're doing Slack, we're doing AWS, we're doing GCP, and it's still expanding as of today.
Yeah, it's interesting because we also, when we started BetterCloud, it was 9 years ago, we thought it's G Suite. We thought like we're all in on G Suite, full stack, everything.
Yeah.
And I kept telling people, no, all G Suite. And then, of course, as the time goes on, and now we're using Zoom, and now we're using. I swore we would, I just didn't. I myself, even though being at BetterCloud, it's like, well, we're going to really stay core to this, and then you just see the natural. I don't know, just kind of, it just happens, and then you can't fight back because people. That's how they're doing their jobs.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Travis, how about for you? What have you seen in your career? I know you've been in a lot of forward-thinking organizations. So maybe if you go back even further, but what do you see has been the biggest change for IT and for you?
Yeah, so I've seen, as mentioned here, the flow of SaaS ops really has just led to this ever widening field of all these different tools that individual teams will start to use, especially as people come and go within organizations, they get used to certain tools and certain workflows, and they come into different organizations and there's almost an expectation that they're able to bring with them these tools and these workflows and start adapting them to wherever they are today. So I've noticed that, as the normal progression of people joining the organization comes with it, the progression and the addition of all these other cloud-based tools and stuff. So with it, this discovery process that we have of the tools that are out there and what fits the mold, right? What is the, as you said, best of breed to get the job done is forever changing for us, and we're trying to keep up with that.
Yeah, that's I think that part interesting of how people bring with them. I've also noticed this again at BetterCloud, relatively small company, 350 people, but I notice how as we've gotten bigger and people have come into the team, they bring with them an application, a process that we didn't necessarily have before. But again, can you argue with them if that's how they've done it and that's how they want to do it? And then you say, nope, you got to use this application that is, has to change your whole process. And it's that's an interesting point. Actually, I don't think we've talked about that before of how people are bringing with them from wherever they were, whatever application that company was using, whatever process that company had. Yeah, right. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's a forever changing, atmosphere that you have to be able to keep up with.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys another question, and maybe again, Deji, we'll start with you. Is I look, we're in the middle of something that none of us have ever seen in our lives, in our careers. That we've been forced, really, truly forced to change the way that we live and work, frankly. And I'm lucky that my kids haven't shown up yet here. So we've been forced to change that. And I'm curious, from where you're sitting, what are you seeing? At Sunrun, what can you just maybe share with us? What you went through there? To is everyone working remote? How did you handle that? How quickly did that happen? How central were you and your team to all of that? All of that.
Okay, so that's a very good topic because that's where we are right now. Sunrun has always been a cloud first company, so we have remote workers, and we're already in Okta, and most of our applications are SaaS apps. So for us, it wasn't too difficult. But for some teams that needed to, like those on the phone, on the phones and phones on the floor, we had to convert their process for them. So those were the big challenges we saw. But for the most part, it was our leaders saw this coming. We started running dry runs for remote working and started looking at converting process for things that needed to be connected to the on-prem. We expanded on our VPN and things like that. Those were the big. So our networking team did a very great job. They did a very good job you know, proactively targeting what are the estimated numbers of people that will need on-prem services. So expanded on the VPN, and like I said, we are cloud first, so we had all our most of our AWS, our VPN is in AWS, and most of our applications that run it's in AWS, so and
Mm,
GCP. So for just those few things, we were already it was easy for us to convert. But those were the
mhm.
difficult things, people on the floor.
Yeah, the people on the floor, the phone piece, that definitely, that's an interesting one. How would you say it took you? I mean, from the point of saying you need to go all remote, was that a matter of a day, couple days, couple hours, week? Like, how
Oh
long
no.
did it take?
A couple of weeks because we, like you said, the leaders already preempted this. We were already running tests in the back end to see what was needed, requirements, and for those that needed to be on a meeting, well, when they're
Mhm.
on the floor, so that they can interact with the managers, things like that. We're already working on the back end to see what the requirements will be, and so they're working towards that.
Great. How about for you, Travis, for Squarespace?
Sure. So we're a little bit different. We do have a decent cloud presence, but we also do have a traditional on-prem, data center footprint as well. So being able to connect to these things, luckily we have a world-class networking team that was able to step up to the challenge. We did have a decent work from home style environment set up to begin with, luckily. So that if you weren't going to be in the office, we do have a VPN that did allow you to access the tools that you needed to be able to do your job remotely. Obviously, we had never really had a chance to test in production, sending the entire workforce home at the same time. Being in New York, there are the occasional times where the New York office may close due to inclement weather, and we see a large number of people logging in remotely. But this is the first time where we've seen it as a global event, forcing everyone to work from home. So it definitely has put a bit of a stress test on those systems that we had set up in place. But luckily, we've been able to navigate most of those challenges without too much of an issue.
Yeah, that's I mean, for us, same thing. We had never really had everyone working from home and in ever. I mean, and we ended up doing it by office, essentially, and had each office kind of go home on subsequent days. And we but we realized, I mean, for me, it was a realization. I have some friends who work at some really, really big, older legacy type big companies, successful businesses, and they so frustrated because they can't, even if they wanted to work, they cannot actually get their work done. They cannot get access to the applications that they need to get access to. So, I think this has been a really interesting test. I think for people's technology stack, and probably forcing some decisions. So let me kind of go a different direction now, and maybe we'll start with Travis. Are there any projects that you're seeing kind of get accelerated, that based on this fact that now we're all at home, and it's I'd say for BetterCloud, we were about to expand our office space in essentially every city that we have offices, and now we don't need to do that right now. And so we're looking at kind of projects that are further out in the pipe and bringing those in. Are there any things like that you've seen, Travis?
Yeah, we don't know the full length or extent to which we'll be in this particular scenario. So that's definitely given us some pause here and made us rethink our objectives and our priorities and, the order at which we get these things done. But, it's given us an opportunity as well to really experiment and try new processes that we had given some thought to. So this is really a bit of a time to experiment in some of these areas. One area that we were looking to really focus on is our onboarding process. Traditionally we've had people come into the office and go through a new hire setup, but this has forced us to rethink that a little bit. And the idea of zero touch provisioning, meaning that we're able to onboard users with little to no IT team interaction as possible, has really come to the forefront as of late. So I think we're going to be trying to look at going completely zero touch and going so far as to having new equipment be shipped directly to end users so that they don't feel like they're missing too much of the onboarding process that they would have had had they been coming into the office.
Cool. Deji, how about you?
Yes, just like Travis, so yes, our onboarding process when it comes to applications is fully automated. 80 to 90% of our apps are in Okta, and they're provisioned by rules either by rules in Okta or we use BetterCloud to automate things too. For when it comes to onboarding, we are moving towards Chromebooks for our users. So we're gonna fast track on that. Like
Cool.
most of our users, we have thousands of Chromebooks out there, and we're trying to expand on that. So for those that cannot use, there's some certain apps that cannot be used that won't run on Chromebooks, like apps that need Java and things like that. We're also looking at virtualizing apps, and that's what we're moving towards. Because Chromebook onboarding process is it's seamless. You log in,
Wow.
you just log in, Okta triggers, you're in.
I like that. Okay, great. Let me ask you one more question, just to get your take. You've heard me talk about SaaSOps before. You've heard me share this framework before. Any thoughts as I was going through this in terms of areas where you think are, in your right, both of your organizations and you guys are very forward thinking, and areas that you think, let's maybe choose one area that you think is the most challenging, and one area that you think people really need to get right quickly, if that makes sense. So kind of the first area to tackle of all these blocks, and maybe the area that you've experienced is challenging, important, but really challenging. I'll let either of you, whoever wants to go first.
I'll take it and run with this one.
Okay.
So there's two. I'm torn on this one, right?
Same
As
here.
I've moved up I guess to the managerial ranks at least, I have to be more cognizant of spend and spend insights, right? As I get to take a greater leading role with budgets and operating with our finance teams, they want to be part of the conversation over what our SaaS spend is, and with shadow IT being something that we're always having to constantly battle, having these spend insights to making sure that we're maximizing our spend, right? We don't have licenses out there that are not being used, or we're, don't have, or we're not right sized, with the setup that we have in these SaaS ops. I'd say spend insights is really a large focus of at least my time going forward. Now, on the other hand, however, from a more practical perspective, identity and access has been something that I've been preaching, I think, since day one, since I've landed at my current organization. Making sure that the users have the right amount or level of access from day one. It's very hard to rein in access after users have been given it later on down the road. So making sure security and access are set up correctly from the get-go is really key.
Awesome. Deji?
Yeah, for me, for Sunrun, I think spend insights, I'm not going to go into it too much because we have an excellent sourcing team that, they're on the ball when it comes to getting applications. So I'm not even going to touch that. So that one is taken care of. So for us, it's you'll be user lifecycle automation for, for when users come in, or when they're coming in, they're provisioned or they are automatically provisioned from day one. No, because I think from experience, the onboarding experience is very important for newcomers, and that for us that's key. So we try to get it like right out the door, get the system, the applications, everything provisioned from day one.
Great.
Another piece that's also very important, though, we have an excellent security team, is SaaS security. Very important for us.
Great. Well, Travis, Deji, we're running out of time, so I really appreciate you guys joining me today, and it's good to see you at home. And we'll stay in touch. We'll talk soon, and thank you guys very much for joining.
Thank you, David.
Hi. Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining. I just want to make sure you're aware we've got all sorts of resources available to you. Like I mentioned, we'd love for you to join our community, join this SaaSOps community. BetterIT.cloud is a great place. That's our Slack community. The BetterCloud Monitor, bettercloud.com/monitor, which is our newsletter. We've got buyers guides, we've got books, we've got all sorts of things. And again, it's much broader than just BetterCloud. I mean, this is about this broader movement. And we really appreciate your time. We really appreciate you joining today. And my challenge for all of you is to go and move this movement and this practice forward and champion it. And so thank you very much. And we look forward to your questions.